Hi everyone. This will be my labor and delivery story. It's been 1 week since I gave birth to my daughter Noveo, and we've just been doing really well. But I'll update you on that in a separate video. Here she is. See if I can get her high enough. There she is. And she has the hiccups. So she's just going to hang out down here while I tell you my labor and delivery story. Okay, so I guess I should start on Tuesday. Last week Tuesday, it was at the 13th. My husband and I went to go get iPod speakers because I really wanted music in my room when I was in labor, and my iPod speakers died, and we just had the computer with their, it's like little mini can't even hear speakers. So we went and got speakers, and then I happened to watch this one YouTube video with this cute pregnant girl, and she's like dancing all over her house. I think it was called how to get into labor in 8 hours or something like that, because she after she was dancing, she went into labor 8 hours later and had her baby. So anyway, I thought, well, that could be fun. And so on Wednesday, the 14th, I turned up the music and I started dancing around the house for all morning. And I could really feel her head moving down. And so I thought, oh, this is cool, maybe it'll work for me. So all day, and you know how it is, when you're waiting to go into labor, well, for me anyway, I would wake up every morning and I'd be like, oh, maybe today's the day, and I'd be so optimistic. And then as the day would go on and on, nothing would happen, and by the time night came around, I was like, okay, she better not come when I'm trying to sleep, basically. And I would just be fed up with it and just irritated because I had been pregnant for a whole nother day. But anyway, this is Wednesday the 14th. I literally just finished complaining to my husband about how people tell you, oh, just go about your day as normal, when you're waiting to go into labor. Just try to keep things as normal as possible. And I'm just like, nothing about my life is normal right now. Nothing is normal when you're waiting to go into labor. You're constantly thinking about it. You're constantly wondering, every little pain, every little twinge is like, oh, is this it? There's nothing normal about it. And so I was complaining to my husband about that. And see, it was about 9:30. And I was hungry, so I poured myself a bowl of peanut butter crunch, which was my latest fetish, being pregnant. And, oh, she's smiling. Sat down, and I felt that pop, and my water broke. It really did feel like a little teeny itty bitty bubble just popping, and it really struck me because I was like, wow, I didn't realize my membranes were that thin. Completely painless. Pop, and then just a trickle of fluid. Went to the toilet, sat down, and it just kept flowing and flowing and flowing, and so I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. And so that was about 9:40. So we called the hospital, and the nurse said, I explained to her that I was group B strep positive, and if my water were to break, that I was told to go right into the hospital. And so she said, okay, come on in. And so we packed up our stuff and we left. And before we left the house, I had started to feel very mild contractions, like menstrual pain, exactly like menstrual cramping. And it really wasn't that bad at all. Got into the car, headed out, and it was beautiful. It was nice and clear, no rain, and it had been storming I don't know, for the last month. But we had beautiful weather all the way down to Waimea. It didn't take long at all, it seemed like to me, because the roads were completely clear. It was night. There was nobody on the roads, so it was just a nice drive over which was, you know, something that I was worried about, and I didn't want to be like in full-on labor, you know, and trying to get to Waimea. So I had a nice, easy drive to Waimea. By the time we got there, my contractions were a little bit stronger, but not unbearable. And they weren't coming regularly yet. Got there at about, I'd say 11:15 at night. Got in, got changed. They didn't check my cervix. They just took me up to the monitor, monitored the baby for a little while, and then got me hooked up to the IV for my antibiotics. And as soon as they hooked me up to the IV, my contractions started coming regularly. I didn't time them at all, but they were coming, and they were coming stronger and stronger. And so we put on the music, and I had to sit on the bed for a little while we were waiting for it. Actually, no. I had to sit on the bed while they were monitoring me, but as soon as they took off the monitor, then I could get up and move around. So, so I would just, with each contraction, I would just stand up. I would sit on the bed between contractions and then stand up, and then I would just hug my husband, and we would just rock back and forth, and it was fine. I was getting through them fine. They didn't really hurt too badly. A little bit further along, maybe half an hour or so. It's really hard to tell what, you know, like how long I was going through contractions before. You know what I mean? Like, time is different when you're in labor. To me, it went by really fast. So I'm not really too sure on exactly when things happened. But after a while, I felt like pushing. I really felt a lot of pressure, like right on my butt. And turned out I just had to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom, came back out, and I was getting contractions, and I still kind of felt like pushing, but not as much. I asked the nurse to check my cervix because I was getting that pushing urge, and I was at a 6. So assuming that I hadn't dilated at all since my 40-week appointment, I went from a 2 to a 6 in, gosh, maybe a couple hours. It's probably like around 1 at this point. And then she's like, okay, well, if you're feeling a lot of pressure on your rectum, then her head is probably right there. So, and that's not exactly where she needs to be. She needs to turn her head, and she was explaining to me what position she needed to be in. So I was like, okay, she said, go in the shower and put your foot up on the stool in the shower and just rock back and forth. And that usually helps the baby to get into the right position. So I went in the shower after I finished. I was supposed to get 2 bags of antibiotics. I only got 1 bag. And then she said, okay, I'll take you off, and she let me go in the shower. So my husband's spraying water on my back. It felt so good. And I'm rocking back and forth. I had 1 leg up on the stool, rocking back and forth through the contractions. And the nurse said, okay, if you feel like really strong, like you're like falling over contraction, call me. And gosh, I don't know how long it was, maybe like half an hour or something, when that contraction came, and I just knew, and I literally fell over. Like, I was on my knees, like just clutching the stool, and I was like, oh, this is the contraction she's talking about. So I was like, I yelled at my son, like, go get the nurse, go get the nurse. Ran and got the nurse, came back, she took me out, put me down on the bed, checked my cervix, and I was at an 8, and she could stretch me to a 9. So again, this is like maybe 1:30, approaching 2 o'clock. And she said, wow, you're really progressing fast. And I was like, at that point, I was like, I gotta push. And the hardest thing, okay, the most painful or most difficult thing about the entire labor is when you're at that point where you're almost fully dilated and you feel like you have to push. And I'm gonna cut to a part 2. Okay. Bye guys. I'll be right back.